woman said quietly. This is how they do it. Slow, clean, and only when they know no one will defend you. That sentence stayed with Ariana because it explained the silence, the way people avoided her eyes, the reason support evaporated overnight. It wasn't disbelief. It was fear. Fear of being next. Meanwhile, Nathaniel was reaching his own limits. He had built his career on data, accountability, and the belief that transparency could solve most problems. But this wasn't a system built to be solved. It was built to protect itself. Every question he asked was answered with a delay. Every request for documentation was met with concern about overreach. When he suggested bringing in outside counsel, the temperature in the room dropped. That's when he understood. This wasn't just about Ariana. It was about control. He met her that evening, not in public, but in a quiet space away from glass and cameras. For the first time since the investigation began, Ariana told him everything. Not emotionally, precisely. Dates, names, patterns. She didn't ask him to intervene. She didn't ask him to choose. She asked him to listen. And he did. When she finished, there was a long pause. Then Nathaniel said something that surprised her. They think you'll disappear if they apply enough pressure. His voice was steady. They don't realize you're building a case. That night, Ariana made a decision that would change the course of everything. She contacted a journalist, not a headline chaser, not a gossip columnist, someone known for slow reporting and careful sourcing. The message was brief. She didn't accuse. She didn't dramatize. She offered documentation and a question. What happens when an investigation is designed to find a conclusion instead of the truth? The journalist didn't respond right away. In the days that followed, the foundation escalated. A formal warning letter arrived, reminding Ariana of non-disclosure agreements and potential consequences of sharing internal materials. The language was sharp now, less polished. Pressure was turning into a threat. That told her everything she needed to know. The journalist called 3 days later. What followed was not an interview. It was a verification process. Files were reviewed, timelines tested, claims challenged. Ariana welcomed it. Truth could withstand scrutiny. The legal director's story could not. As this was happening, a strange thing occurred inside the foundation. The tone shifted again. Where there had been pressure, there was now urgency. Meetings were scheduled and canceled, statements drafted and redrafted. Someone had realized the narrative was slipping out of their control. The journalist uncovered evidence of a second leak, one that predated the accusation against Ariana by months. Same donor pool, same information, different access trail. And this time, the digital fingerprints led directly to a legal compliance review overseen by the same director now managing Ariana's investigation. The story was no longer about a breach. It was about a cover that understands the danger Ariana was in at that moment. Not physical danger, but professional erasure. The kind that doesn't make noise. The kind that ends careers quietly. And yet she was calm. Because once truth surfaces, power has only two options: admit or double down. The foundation chose to double down. And that choice would cost them far more than they imagined. By the time the truth surfaced, the damage had already been done. That is the part institutions never acknowledge, the gap between being cleared and being restored. For Ariana Brooks, the days leading up to the public reckoning felt unreal, like watching a storm from behind thick glass. Her name finally appeared in headlines, this time followed by words like exonerated and misrepresented. The foundation released a carefully worded statement citing process failures and internal misjudgments. No apology, no admission of intent, just enough truth to stop the bleeding. The legal director resigned quietly. There was no press conference, no detailed explanation of how donor information had been manipulated, how access logs had been misused, how a narrative had been shaped to remove a woman who made powerful people uncomfortable. The foundation framed it as closure. Ariana understood it as containment. When the board invited her back for a formal meeting, the room looked the same. Same pale wood table, same softened lighting, same careful smiles. But the atmosphere had shifted. This time, they needed her cooperation. They praised her professionalism. They acknowledged the stress she had endured. They offered a settlement generous enough to change most lives. In exchange, all they asked for was silence. No public commentary, no future interviews, no mention of what the process had done to her reputation. It was presented as a win. Ariana didn't answer right away. She listened. She watched their faces as they spoke about healing and moving forward, about protecting the mission, about learning lessons without naming them. And in that moment, she realized something important. Clearing her name had not changed them. It had only taught them to be more careful. She declined, not loudly, not emotionally, just clearly. She thanked them for the offer and told them she wouldn't be returning. Not to the foundation, not to the role, not to the silence. Her voice didn't shake when she said it, because she had already made peace with what walking away meant. The headlines the next day were polite. Former strategist parts ways with foundation. No drama, no confrontation. But people who knew how to read between the lines understood exactly what had happened. Ariana Brooks had refused to be managed after being mistreated. And in elite spaces, that refusal is unforgettable. Nathaniel stood beside her publicly for the first time shortly after. No announcement, no explanation, just presence. For years, his influence had been unquestioned. Now, for the first time, it was being redefined. Not as protection, but as a partnership. And Ariana stepped into her next chapter without waiting for permission. She launched her own consultancy within months. Not flashy, not loud, but focused. It was designed for Black professionals navigating elite institutions, the ones taught to excel quietly, to endure gracefully, to disappear when things went wrong. Ariana taught them how to document, how to recognize early warning signs, and how to protect their narratives before someone else tried to write them. Clients came quickly. So did the stories. Different industries. Same patterns. Different names. Same outcome. Ariana listened, advised, and built something the foundation never could: trust. The media eventually circled back. This time, Ariana spoke on her own terms. She didn't name villains. She didn't seek revenge. She talked about systems, about how often truth is delayed until it's inconvenient to deny, about how resilience is not just surviving harm, but choosing what you refuse to accept afterward. The victory wasn't the resignation. It wasn't the cleared name. It wasn't even the public recognition. The victory was Ariana's refusal to shrink back into invisibility once the crisis passed. She didn't just escape the frame they built for her. She exposed the blueprint. And that matters, because Ariana Brooks was never the exception. She was the example. The foundation continued. So did the world. But somewhere inside those glass rooms, a new discomfort settled in. The knowledge that silence was no longer guaranteed. That documentation existed. Those stories could be told from the inside out. And Ariana? She walked forward with her head high, not because she had won, but because she had chosen dignity over comfort, truth over convenience, and self-definition over approval. If this story made you think, if it felt familiar, or unsettling, or validating, tell us in the comments what stood out to you most. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, make sure you subscribe to Melanin Chronicles for more powerful stories about truth, resilience, and the systems that shape our lives. Because the most dangerous thing to power has never been rebellion. It has always been a woman who refuses to disappear.